I'm Ashley Chancellor, and the defense is ready, Your Honor.
And I'm Beau Maddox, and the prosecution was born ready, Your Honor.
And this is Collateral Gaming with
Collateral Cinema.
Welcome to Collateral Gaming, the only video game podcast that matters, where we focus on good games, bad games, and everything else in between in the world of gaming. We are podcasting straight from somewhere in South Texas, and yes, my friends, we are a 420 friendly podcast, so whatever you have, smoke it if you've got it.
And vape it if you have it as well, by the way.
Yeah, for sure, bro. Well, we are back for part 2 of our cross-examination of the Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Trilogy. So we are going to be covering this time Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Justice for All, as well as Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Trials and Tribulations. Before we get into that, though, I guess we'll do a little bit, we'll do a segment that we normally do on the second part of our episodes and talk about what we've been playing.
Well, obviously, other than, Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney, not really much for me.
Yeah. I imagine not. I mean, Beau, I guess you don't spend as much time gaming, except whenever,
Yeah, no, I just watch people play video games on YouTube because it's just a lot more fun. But honestly, it's been a while since I've actually brought out my PS Classic and played through it, so I don't know. Maybe I need to play some Super Mario 64 or something.
There you go, like for the new movie coming out or something, right?
Damn right, yeah, for the new movie, exactly.
Fucking A. Yeah, I've actually been kept pretty busy myself, so in addition to, of course, playing through the Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Trilogy twice in a row recently, I have played somewhat related Shu Takumi's other game, Ghost Trick Phantom Detective. I played and beat that. Fucking loved it. It's amazing. Takumi's brilliance shines through just as brightly, if not more so. And the characters are in the story writing. It's the same level of quality as the Ace Attorney trilogy.
Amazing. I mean, it sounds like something I could get into. I mean, as much as I got into Phoenix Wright and everything.
Yeah. And also, speaking of other visual novel, adventure, murder mystery, specifically video games, Danganronpa is a series that I've recently gotten into. And I'm actually most of the way through the second game now and enjoying the hell out of that.
So you've been playing the Danganronpers?
Yes.
The Danganronpers?
Exactly. Danganronpa 1 and 2, really, really, really good. Can see the influence from Ace Attorney there, actually.
The Danganronpers.
Yeah. But it's darker. It's kind of this punk pop aesthetic, and it's really, really, really good.
It really kind of just it feels like an emo kid's version of Phoenix Wright in many ways.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what it kind of feels like from what I've seen.
Yeah, I've also, of course, I was playing Resident Evil 4 remake because that recently came out, but also been playing through the original Resident Evil 4 on my Switch. Been able to kind of compare and contrast those two has been fun, and of course, if you want to hear more about my thoughts on that, I had actually recorded with Dan Rockwood from Victims and Villains our thoughts on the Resident Evil 4 remake. So go check that out if you haven't listened to that episode already. What else? Breath of the Wild. I know I've been kind of jumping back into that one again in preparation for Tears of the Kingdom. Also, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. I've been playing a lot of lately again because Jedi Survivor's coming out later this month. So
excellent.
Yeah. Just kind of prepping myself in a lot of ways. But yeah, that's pretty much what I've been up to. Anything you think noteworthy that's happened? News-wise?
Not that I've really heard heard of myself.
Okay, just because it's been a while since part 1, but yeah, I mean, I'm sure we'll compile everything that's kind of happened the last month or so the next time we do a news segment. But anyway, that kind of wraps up the preliminaries, I guess. I want to jump right into these games because I have a lot to say.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Alrighty, so starting off with Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Justice for All. We're going to start with the second game in the trilogy. Of course, if you haven't listened to part 1 with our thoughts on the first Ace Attorney game, I'd recommend you go listen to that first. And then, because we're going to be kind of jumping off of our experience here. But Beau, again, this was your first time playing through these games. What did you think of Justice for All?
Well, Justice for All, I mean, to me, it doesn't add a whole lot new to the gameplay other than maybe the psycho locks, but to me, this trilogy isn't really so much about the gameplay as it is about the story and about the character development. And then it has that in droves. And these characters are just so iconic to me now. I mean, like the Fays, and I mean all the Fays, even even the evil one, Morgana Faye. I mean, they're like just iconic to me now, and also, of course, like Franziska von Karma.
Franziska, yep, new character for Justice for All. She's the rival prosecutor of this game.
She is a very interesting character. I mean, very multifaceted, in so many ways, and just always whipping people, always with the whip.
I love Franziska. She's honestly, genuinely one of my favorite characters. She's fucking amazing. I would love to see her come back like post time skip. But as far as her portrayal in this game, what's really great is the first time I played this, the first time you're playing through this game and you meet her for the first time, you actually really hate her at first. I mean, you kind of thinking, oh, hey, this is the daughter of Manfred von Karma, who was, essentially the final boss of the last game, if you don't include Rise from the Ashes.
And it's interesting about how she's really kind of developed this whole persona and her own little resume in such a short time. I mean, she started around 13, right?
Yeah, she started prosecuting at 13, and like her father, undefeated.
Yeah, completely undefeated up to that point. And yeah, she does want revenge against Phoenix Wright, so she ends up facing off with him pretty much like throughout this entire game.
She does, and she's definitely got something to prove, and you can tell. And I think the deeper you dive into her character, the more you realize just what kind of a fucked up childhood you would have had as like a Von Karma kid. And Edgeworth himself had to go through that because he kind of was something of an adoptive brother of hers.
Yeah, whom she sees as a younger brother, her little brother, by the way, even though she is the younger one here. But I mean, she is like Von Karma's actual blood relative.
Yeah, exactly.
So I guess in the family hierarchy, she is going to kind of, be like that with Edgeworth.
Yeah, and I like how, like her father, she insists on perfection, and everything is about maintaining perfection. Although I guess she doesn't ever stoop to anything like Von Karma did, her father.
Not entirely, no.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that dude was a fucking bastard. Franziska's actually a good person, and I love the kind of 180 that we do with the character. Is like at the very final case, she actually becomes an ally, and then we actually get to see this other side of Franziska that was completely masked before during that post-credit scene, right?
Oh man, that was so perfect. You're just like, oh man, it's like, damn. In the end, she's still just a kid, I mean, she's been through her own bullshit and everything. She's still dealing with shit.
Yeah, where she actually breaks down, and I think that's great, and she definitely comes back into Trials and Tribulations with just as big of a role for the time that she's there, and that's why like you get so attached to her character, you get attached to Gumshoe.
Salary cutting noises.
Ching,
ching, ching. Oh, Gumshoe is just as lovable in this game as the previous one. Yeah. And I really like his overall character arc throughout the third game as well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, Gumfuck, as we like to call him, is just
did
your.
Gumfuck not tell you?
He's a bastard, but he's a lovable bastard. Okay,
A total lovable bastard. You're right.
and I think he's just doing his best, man.
He really is. I mean, he's just doing the best with what he has. And it's usually not a whole lot, since apparently every time there's a murder, he just arrests the first person that has any shine of a suspicion upon them.
He's doing his best, pal.
I'm doing my best, pal. Now you listen to me. I'm up here on the precinct. That lady with the whip, she's whipping me all the time. It's like that, and it's like I keep getting my salary cut. It's bullshit.
No, I love how like Gumshoe somehow is involved in every single case in the original trilogy, and they even bring that up. They lampshaded in this one because he shows up near Kurain village, and it's like, wait, that wouldn't be in your jurisdiction, Gumshoe. And then he's like, oh no, well I was in the area. Of course, I think it actually what ended up being because. My headcanon, if it's not confirmed, is that he was keeping an eye on Phoenix for Edgeworth.
Probably. That's probably the most likely thing.
Because they have that phone conversation, right?
Yeah, near the end of the game, they have that conversation before Edgeworth comes back.
Yeah, the return of Edgeworth, of course.
Oh yeah, that's great.
I like how, moving from the second game on, Shu Takumi felt that we can't continue to have this supposedly genius prosecutor, just lose case after case against Phoenix. So eventually what he decided to do from the second game on was just limit Edgeworth's appearance, especially because he was such a popular character that he felt he really just needed to kind of spread that out and just put just enough Edgeworth in. And it's why Edgeworth has this recurring trend of showing up in like the final case as essentially actually an ally at the opposite end of the court.
Yeah, there are moments near the end of the game where he's there at the prosecutor's bench, and you could tell that there's just shit that's bothering him about this witness. He's just like, I don't know about this.
Yeah. So Wright and Edgeworth work together, and that actually comes to a head in the final case of this game, which I think we'll do a case by case analysis here in a bit here, but. Yeah, I really feel like their relationship comes to a head, and there's a lot of tension in the air because Edgeworth is supposedly gone, and Phoenix doesn't elaborate that. He doesn't elaborate on that. And then finally, they mentioned the whole Miles Edgeworth chooses death thing.
I mean, Phoenix Wright is so perturbed by it that he actually bristles at Edgeworth's name and even snaps at Maya whenever he's brought up. It's actually really interesting because, I mean, he's just that pissed at Edgeworth for just, kind of bailing out on him, when he needed him, kind of.
Yeah, and I think he makes the point that it didn't matter whether he was really dead or not because the Edgeworth that he knew was dead because he bailed. But it turns out Edgeworth was going on a journey of self-reflection. And I like how Takumi manages to kind of weave Phoenix's own version of that, questioning what his role as a defense attorney really is.
It's also kind of interesting in regards to how Mia's instruction guides Phoenix towards that end, I mean, even after Mia is killed in the second case of the first game, I believe it was the second case of the first game that she died. Yeah. I mean, she still comes back through Pearl and Maya, which I think a joke we made before. It's like, no matter what, as long as the Fays are around, like, they're going to be haunting Phoenix for the rest of his life.
Exactly. I think Maya makes that joke. Yeah, we also get introduced to Pearl, right?
Yeah, we get introduced to Pearly, who's just so adorable. She's the best, honestly.
I know, yeah. She's an adorable character. And thankfully, he actually gets quite a bit of screen time, not appearing in every single case, but she's pretty prominent in the second and third game. Which is great because, like you said, I mean, she's also kind of the stand-in for Maya whenever it's needed to channel Mia. And so, I kind of like how we even delve further into the Faye family. I mean, starting with, the second case in Kurain Village, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we're kind of introduced to a little more of like the internal politics of the Faye clan, like the whole thing with the main family and the branch families and kind of the history between Misty Faye and Morgana Faye.
Yeah, between like Misty and Morgan, who is actually, interestingly enough, the culprit at the end of Reunion and Turnabout. And I like how it was obvious here that, Takumi was actually already laying out, both games 2 and 3, because her role is intentionally left open. And even though she's prosecuted, even though she's in jail, I mean, they're still hinting, hey, there's something going on behind the scenes. And that doesn't come to a head until the final case of the next game. So you could tell that, there's really kind of this long game going on here.
Absolutely. I mean, and especially the way that, you actually kind of figure that case out, mainly by figuring out what happens with Eenie Miney, who...
Eenie Miney and Mimi Miney, right?
Mimi Miney, yeah. How that whole thing becomes, it's just a complete switcheroo, pretty much, as far as their identities are concerned. So
yeah, I think it was with that case that I started realizing the whole, hey, there's always some kind of like final twist that's like, even after you've already caught the culprit, there's one more thing that's going to turn this whole case about.
But what's great about that is that it's always still a very logical train of thought that leads you there. There is a logic to how you use the evidence and how you construct your case.
Yeah, sometimes even, arguably overly so, with the game being a bit pedantic about, the presentation. But when you think about it, it all makes sense.
Yeah, I'm down with that pedantry, because I think that that's what adds to the urgency of the courtroom parts.
Yeah, and kind of figuring some things out in advance and piecing the case together, I think is something you're supposed to do, because there's even moments where Phoenix comes out and he suddenly talks about how, like, yeah, no, I know what went down. I already know about this. And you're like, okay.
Yeah.
Like Phoenix has figured it out. And so, like, I love how there's just kind of this like synchronicity going on with that. And, just being able to, like, again, piece together these cases, just with each piece of evidence, with witness testimony, just getting closer and closer to the truth.
And it never really puts a huge wall up on how accessible the solutions are,
Yeah.
You don't, there's not really a huge learning curve here, but it's like, if you are somebody who is very logical and, can kind of use some recent, or should I say, use some decent deductive skills and whatnot, I mean, many times you'll already figure out what's going on, like well before you can even get to the point where you can present that evidence. You already kind of have an idea as to how the case is going to play out.
Exactly. But then there's oftentimes some last minute twist that's something like, okay, this came out of nowhere, like the Eenie and Mimi Miney twist.
Like in the next game, I had a moment in the very final in Bridge to the Turnabout where I was just like, I like gasped, like, what?
Yep.
Wait, no. It's like, we'll talk about that here in a little bit, but yeah, there's some moments like that here, where, like for instance, going back to Eenie and Mimi Miney, like how you really deduce that they're the same person, or that, this is Mimi, who's taking over as Eenie.
Yeah, exactly. That's such a, like it's a total like shift, and it's kind of almost, stretches the boundaries of belief, the suspension of disbelief, but it's still there. It's still like, okay. I think the next case, Turnabout Big Top, really pushes the boundaries on that.
Now, I'm going to say I really like Turnabout Big Top. I really like it.
Turnabout Big Top, okay, it is I'm going to say it is the weakest case in the entire trilogy, in my opinion. It is definitely the weakest case in this game. It suffers from the Game 3 syndrome. It's for a couple things that really drag it down. The pedo stuff, yeah. I mean,
definitely that. There's some creepy pedo stuff there.
Yeah. It's very uncomfortable. It's like if the character was at least 18, it would be like, it would still be kind of creepy, but okay. Because you've got Max Galactica, who's in his 20s, and he's simping after a 16-year-old girl, and then you've got the ventriloquist, Ben.
It's the puppet that actually wants to be with Regina, but even
the puppet
so,
is Ben,
the
Beau.
puppet is Ben. But then again, I don't know in this
Those,
continuity,
like, 30s, bro.
But
It's
I mean, but hey, as far as Regina is concerned, she thinks the goddamn puppet is real. She's that out of it, man.
that's what makes it worse.
That's
man.
what makes it worse.
She's got the mentality of like a child.
I know, it's so terrible. It's
Yeah.
like, oh my god, man.
But other than that, though, I will give this case, I think it did this about as well as it could have, but treating like an actual like accidental occurrence, where the killer did have intent to murder, but they accidentally killed somebody else.
I think that's what makes that the saddest case in this game, particularly, is because it doesn't really feel like anybody. There were good people here who were just led astray.
Yeah,
like the final culprit, like Acro, he had a real reason to want to hurt Regina, unfortunately. But the sad thing about that is, as far as Regina was concerned, she loved the both of them. I mean, and the prank that led to that, it wasn't even anything malicious. It was just her being a fucking child.
Exactly. Yeah, it's such a nuanced case in a lot of ways, and that's why. But like, I think once they get to like how the whole thing went down, it's like, okay, so Acro, the paraplegic retired acrobat, lowers using a pendulum a bust to kill somebody who is supposed to be Regina, but he can't actually look up to see who it is, so it ends up being her dad, the ringmaster, who happens to be bent over a box that was lowered to the ground so that his head would be right in the position, right? Lowers the fucking bust, which is, produces a silhouette of Max Galactica for a couple eyewitnesses, or one eyewitness, I should say. And then the ringmaster happens to be wearing Max's cape, which falls off of him at the moment of impact, catches on the fucking bust, and creates the illusion of Max Galactica, the defendant, flying up.
And there you go. I mean, there's an example of where near the end of of each case, you're really starting to just reach for fucking different types of deductions, like completely outside the box. I mean, they tell you to think outside the box several times.
Yeah. It's a real fucking twist, and like I think I remember like us playing and like seeing like the wheels turn for you, and I was like it's kind of a reach. You have to really kind of turn it around and think, okay, what if this? And that happens to be the case. That but I think it does work, especially being that the defendant is a magician. So it's like, what if a murder was basically an accidental magic trick? This won't be this won't be the last time we see a magic trick.
Not so much a magic trick, but an illusion.
Yeah, but that's ultimately what that is. That's what I mean, though. Is like
ultimately that is what modern magic is. It's very much an illusion. They're illusionists in the end.
Yeah, so that's kind of cool in that respect. It's just kind of unfortunate about the character relationships. And kind of unfortunate that it's such a big stretch of disbelief that it almost kind of takes me out for a second. And I know this series is goofy, but like, come on. But you know what? Whatever. It's not a bad case by any means. Moving back, we didn't really talk about the like tutorial case.
Oh yeah, Maggie Bird's case. Maggie Bird is a great character, man. She's very likable, like almost immediately. You're just like, no way she's a killer.
Well, and see, Recipe for Turnabout, which would later end up in Trials and Tribulations, was originally planned to be in this game, and it was going to be a 5 cases. Shu Takumi actually penned 5 cases for this, but the limitations of the GBA prevented it. There were memory issues or limitations, so they just didn't have enough space for the Recipe for Turnabout. So it kind of makes a lot of sense then when you think about how they introduced Maggie within that tutorial case, and that she would later play a role in the same game.
Yeah, and also how they go about the tutorial case itself, and that Phoenix has amnesia and has to kind of get his bearings back a little bit.
Feels like something that I guess they had to do at some point. It's like, okay, we're gonna come up with a funny reason to make it look like for Phoenix not to know what he's doing in court, so people can explain it to him.
And what better than Amnesia? I mean, that's exactly the type of pulp TV courtroom drama bullshit that you would expect out of something like this. You know, that's going all balls out on its craziness.
Yeah, it is very balls to the wall. The culprit is like this like pretentious asshole, and again, like immediately. I think this is the one case in this game that shows you who the culprit is, at the very beginning. So, but you still like taking this little shit down is satisfying. Taking down Eeny, Miny, and or Acro on the other hand is like
Acro.
That's kind of like
That's really, I think, why I like Turnabout Big Top the best is because Acro is one of the hardest fucking witnesses to crack because he doesn't have a meltdown. He doesn't melt. Like he cries at the end because of what he went through, but he doesn't have that huge meltdown moment. He's calm, he's collected, and he's always countering Phoenix's objections with more logic. You know?
Yeah, no, he's definitely very, very intelligent.
Methodical to a point, even.
Yeah. Yeah, it is fucking crazy. Which is cool because you guys a contrast to say like case one where you have honestly like this little shit that is in too deep, makes a fatal mistake because he freaks out because of a police uniform. And but he's the tutorial case. He's supposed to be easy, and of course the prosecution is fucking Payne again.
Oh yeah, Payne is an awesome tutorial prosecutor. I think.
It's always a member of the Payne family prosecuting in the first case. That's kind of a tradition.
Winston Payne and Gaspin Payne.
Gaspin Payne, his brother. Yeah. Their ancestor Auchi. The Great Ace Attorney Chronicles.
Is that really how I think it's a reference to Auchi? Like Ouchie?
Like Ouchie, yeah, I think so. I believe so,
God.
actually.
Oh my God. That's brilliant.
Let's see, and there's a Payne-like character who has a similar name pun, but it's not Payne, and Professor Layton versus Phoenix Wright even. But yeah, Payne is always the a member of the Payne family is always your tutorial prosecutor, and I love it because he's so like woefully incompetent that it's like it's ridiculous. And that's why it works, as kind of like a first case. And then, you get introduced to, whoever's going to be running the show from here. And in this game, it's Franziska, right? For the next two cases anyway.
Phoenix Wright, you're the foolishly foolish fool that has ever fooled in a foolishly foolish way. so something to that effect, I think. But no, Franziska von Karma like steals the show in many of these cases, I feel.
Oh, in many ways.
Yeah,
she
does.
Definitely my favorite characters. Which is interesting too, because when you think about it, she's only the prosecutor for two cases, but you still really get to know her, I feel like.
Oh yeah, you really get kind of deep into her mind a little bit.
I mean, technically, she only prosecutes in two of the cases of this game and one in the next, but I still feel like she's like as big of a character as like Edgeworth or Gumshoe. It's just like, and
also an incredibly popular character as well in her own right.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, she's fucking amazing as a character and just and then of course in the final case of the game we actually have Edgeworth taking over, which feels like it's obligatory. We've got to have that like showdown here.
We have to. It's got to be that showdown between Phoenix and Edgeworth.
And Edgeworth is actually showing Phoenix how what it. Pushing him in the direction that he needs to go to really examine, what is my role? What is my job as a defense attorney like Edgeworth did as a prosecutor?
That is something that's interesting about the underlying themes of Phoenix Wright is really, what does it mean to search for the truth? What does it mean to be a lawyer? What does it mean to seek justice?
And that's what makes Farewell My Turnabout easily the best case of this game, in my opinion. One of my favorite cases in the franchise overall, because, it really actually puts you in that position where, okay, Phoenix is, by the end of the case, you realize, in between a rock and a hard place where he knows that his defendant is actually guilty, like exploring the question of what will Phoenix do in a situation where the defendant is actually guilty. And, because he always believes in his clients until the very end. Well, now he knows for a fact that's not true. But on the other hand, Maya's been kidnapped and her life is on the line and is resting on him getting an acquittal. So it's just the stakes are higher than ever. It puts this tension throughout the whole case.
It is quite possibly the most anxious case out of the entire series because of that,
Yeah.
Because, in many ways the clock is ticking, but also the way where you still end up, taking on Shelby the Killer in court, through a transceiver and everything. And how you have to really attack him in a way,
Yeah, exactly. And I love how this game ends with the final thing you have to do is choose to present a specific piece of new evidence that Franziska managed to get to you in the nick of time with Gumshoe's help, or Gumshoe with Franziska's help, depending on how you look at it.
Yeah.
Taking one of those pieces of evidence and showing it to a particular witness in order to basically nullify the hold that Matt Onguard and Shelley the Killer have on Phoenix.
Yeah, and it's brilliant how it's done, and it just goes back to the concept of honor. It's that's what the killer operates off of, is a code of honor.
Yeah, and so gets him. He basically he realizes at the end of this, we have to prolong this trial. And I know you and I were pressing on every statement to prolong this trial as much as possible.
But also you can't let the killer on as to what you're trying to do. He will figure it out.
Exactly.
He will begin to start being like, right, I don't like the way that your tone is. Something's wrong here.
It's such a panic-inducing case. It's like just this prevalent, persistent threat right up until the end. And then you realize, okay, this is what I have to do. I have to either get Shelley the Killer to break the contract with Matt Onguard, or I have to get Matt Onguard to want a guilty verdict. You end up accomplishing both of those things using the right piece of evidence with the right witness, which is Shelley the Killer.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Showing Shelley the Killer that Matt Onguard was filming him to use as blackmail, but accomplishing both of those tasks at the same time. And it's fucking brilliant. And it really, really, really hammers home the Phoenix's character growth, because it shows how capable he is as a defense attorney. He could have won this case.
He absolutely could have.
If he didn't pursue the truth and place his trust in Edgeworth.
Yeah, exactly. And it leads to exactly the kind of verdict that you want. Like we went ahead and just said, nah, he's guilty. Because Maya would kill you if you let him go.
Exactly.
Regardless,
there's a point in the game where you have to make that hard decision, where it's like, I have to but you remember, because Maya said, if you get him guilty, I'll never forgive you. And it's like, even if she dies, like, I can't fucking do this. And it really puts you there. But then you find out, you get Shelley the Killer to let her go, and just taking down that Onguard is so satisfying. Of course, Phoenix gets a hit to his, as of then, undefeated record, but he realizes that doesn't matter.
No, what matters is the truth in the end.
And Edgeworth and him are on the same page.
Absolutely, because they both want to find Maya. They both want Maya released.
Exactly. It's tremendous for Phoenix's character journey. My only really gripes, I guess, about Justice for All is that, unlike the other two games in the trilogy, it doesn't have as cohesive of an overarching narrative. Like, nothing in the first case really or I guess I should say the second case really culminates in anything in the final case like you would expect. But that's okay, because it is setting things up for later. And I think that there's more of a thematic overarching narrative going on here.
Absolutely, yeah.
Than a storytelling one. So Justice for All, in my opinion, is the weakest of the trilogy, which is I say that really, in a sense that it's a fantastic fucking game. I just, it's not as good. It's a little bit shorter. There's really only one case that's like, wow, this really knocked it out of the park for me. But I mean, it's consistent with the level of quality as the first game, and as the game that would come after it. Getting you really involved in these characters, getting you involved and invested in the story.
Yeah.
And just really kind of even jumping off of what Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney did. Like you said, there were a few gameplay changes. I mean, one of those was really just the Cyclops thing, which does add does add a little bit of. It makes the investigation segments a little bit more fun, in my opinion.
Yeah, it kind of brings the actual same mechanic that you use in the courtroom into the investigations a little bit.
Exactly. That's why I like the Cyclops mechanic.
Yeah, and it's exciting in its own right because I mean, it's you versus this one character, and you're just trying to kind of have a little battle of wits with them.
Yeah, exactly. And they're not necessarily a culprit; they just have something to hide. And you're getting to the bottom of that, and you may not have the evidence to take them to get that out of them yet. So you investigate a little bit more, collect a few more things, and come back and break them. And I really kind of like how we made the investigation segments a little bit more enjoyable. It seemed like they were actually making efforts to improve on that.
Yeah.
The only other major thing I think is the ability to present present profiles. In court or presenting to other people or during Cyclops.
Yeah. I mean, was that really a different mechanic?
Yeah, the first game didn't have that. It was only evidence. And this game,
interesting.
The profile. I mean, the profiles were always in the court record, but this game allowed you to present them, and not too often, but sometimes a profile is the evidence needed to make clear a contradiction in court.
Yeah, it's like you did this because of this person right here. Or it's like, I believe that this person is the killer. It's like, that's a good mechanic, and it kind of expands the gameplay a little bit.
Yeah. And the soundtrack's good. I will say, I think my favorite is the first game, followed by the third game. But the soundtrack is really, really good. It's really catchy. There's a lot of really awesome tracks.
Absolutely, man. I mean, I've been jamming the pretty much the entirety of the Phoenix Wright music canon, like pretty much in the last few weeks. And I mean, I've come across quite a few from this game right here, and it's among the best out of the series, I think.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah.
Well, anything else to add about Justice for All before we get into Trials and Tribs?
Other than that, Turnabout Big Top is the greatest case ever. Not really.
Man, we didn't even talk about Mo the Clown.
Oh God, this motherfucker.
I love how you were like, well, the clown did it.
The clown did it. No, the first thing I was like, clown did it. The fucking clown did it.
And then we met the ventriloquist, and you were like, the ventriloquist did it.
No, the puppet did it.
The puppet did it. That's right.
The puppet did it.
The puppet did it.
It's a Chucky thing. The puppet did it. No, but I mean, I also noticed that Mo has that cap on, and it has a mouth up there that also emotes with him.
I like how he's Lawrence Curls, aka Mo.
Lawrence Curls, aka Mo, a great Three Stooges reference right there.
And then they frequently refer to him as a stooge or a stoogey character.
Yeah, he's a total stooge.
That's funny, but he's the one character, or not the one, but one of the only characters that or witnesses that you can actually lose credibility by pressing, and they make that clear. If you press the wrong statement, you will get a penalty.
Yeah, it's because he just goes off and fucking makes a bad joke, and the judge is like, nope, not having that. I am not having this shit in my courtroom.
I think that's the other reason people really hate Turnabout Big Top.
Yeah, it is. I can understand, but I don't know. I just can't help but like it, Maybe because of the ending, where it's just like, oh, well, they are kind of their own little family and everything, and they actually do kind of care about the circus and whatnot, know, and each other a little bit.
Objection!
For me, Farewell My Turnabout is easily the standout in this game, and I think it is peak Ace Attorney for me. Really, really, really interesting where they take Phoenix's character journey, and I like what they did with his journey kind of throughout this game. I like the themes. I like getting to know these characters a little bit more. I like the subtle improvements in gameplay, but I love Trials and Tribulations even more. Trials and Tribulations is easily my favorite game in the franchise.
This is a very solid entry. Very solid. I liked all the cases here. They were all very... They had a great narrative all the way through, going to the end. And how it all just kind of came together in the end was really, really awesome.
Everything gets wrapped up in Bridge to the Turnabout. That's what's crazy about it, is it wraps up everything with a nice little bow. I think where Trials and Tribulations really wins out is that it's total focus on story. No new gameplay additions to really speak of here. I don't think they change anything about the gameplay at all. They just strictly focused on tying up every loose end in this trilogy and having a really fucking good story.
Exactly. I mean, especially even in the first case, the both Mia cases are actually really superb because it actually sets up this rivalry between her and Dahlia Hawthorne and how it just goes through to the final case. And it's just like everything just comes together there.
Yeah, exactly. Like everything comes to a head. I like how Trials and Tribulations sets its tutorial case as a flashback trial. It actually opens up in the shoes of Mia Fey.
Absolutely, and we are also introduced to one attorney, Diego Armando.
Not in this case, we're not.
Not in this. Oh yeah, that's right.
But later in one of her flashback cases, yes. But yeah, no, I love how it opens up with Mia and then it brings that back. And then, like you said, like it really just ties it all together in that final case. You even get a bit of a chance to play as Edgeworth in court.
That was really fun. Edgeworth as a defense attorney.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That was really great. And against Franziska von Karma of all people. Holy fuck.
Yeah. Phoenix or Edgeworth versus Franziska. Really, really, really cool to see that. And that's how they kind of bring Franziska into this game. She acts as the prosecutor in the first trial of the last case. And then in the last trial, it's Phoenix versus Godot again, because you got to take this guy down and figure out what's going on. Let's talk about Godot, because you mentioned Diego Armando already.
Diego Armando. Oh, man, what a badass, dude. I mean, he is just... he starts off as Mia's mentor, essentially. He's poisoned by Dahlia Hawthorne, goes into a coma, and goes through hell, and then comes back, and he holds Phoenix accountable for Mia's death, and he's just going to take him down for that.
Exactly. But
it's a great character arc.
For the majority of the game, you don't know that. He just has some kind of weird animosity toward Wright, but he's this unknown prosecutor, has never prosecuted a single trial. In fact, he says that. He goes, I'm undefeated. And then he goes, well, you've never prosecuted a single trial. That's correct. But I thought you said you were undefeated. Exactly.
just the way that he uses rhetoric and uses wordplay is amazing,
And he's a coffee addict. This dude, Franziska has her whip, so fucking Godot, has the coffee thing where the coffee, some unknown third party is always sliding down exactly 17 cups of coffee per trial.
It's like, where's he getting the coffee from? Who's giving him is the judge giving him coffee over and over? What the fuck is going on there? It's like the coffee is just coming from hammer space.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's great. What's funny is apparently originally Godot was going to be like chain smoking and like sipping whiskey in court.
Oh, I'm sure that wouldn't go down well here in the States.
They toned it down.
Or even in Japan, for that matter.
They toned it down and made him a coffee addict. But even so, it works for him. I love his fucking theme that plays, that really conveys everything about his character, that kind of... It's jazz, and so it's kind of it works on the surface level, and then once you really get to the bottom of his character and you listen through it, there's kind of this somber piano solo that really kind of conveys the sadness behind his character.
Yeah, I mean, going off of the character arc that I mentioned before, I mean, it's like he's in a coma, he wakes up, and the one person that he really cared about the most is gone. And then he, of course, he's going to hold Phoenix Wright accountable for that, you know? But just the way that he comes back and he just coolly and calmly just comes into the courtroom, and then he just presents his case. He does not give a fuck. And that's what's awesome. He has zero fucks to give because he's died already, pretty much.
He's already died.
He's dead.
Exactly, and he's such a great fucking character. Easily the best prosecutor, in my opinion, in the series. He's just such a cool character that I think for some reason you actually like immediately love. Just his whole, just random rhetoric or seemingly random that like you don't know what he's even driving at. The coffee thing, throwing the coffee mugs at Wright.
Oh, right in his face. Like the disrespect. God damn. He just calls him trite.
Calls him trite throughout the entire game until the very final case at the very end, where he finally demonstrates his respect by calling him Phoenix Wright by his name. And he says, he's drinking his coffee and he goes, out of all of the cups of coffee that I've drank in court, this is the best I've ever had. Don't you agree, Phoenix Wright? And Phoenix is on the other side drinking the coffee, and he agrees.
It's like, I agree. It's like, yeah, that's a badass moment.
Even though really he is the final culprit of that case, it's kind of like, oh, but he was trying to protect Maya.
Yeah, and the only reason that he even acted is because he saw Dahlia, and he just couldn't help it. He was just that pissed at Dahlia Hawthorne.
Yeah, such a great character, just phenomenal. From beginning to end. I love how like bits and pieces of what would be his undoing are leaked throughout the other cases in this game. I mean, they really foreshadow the whole not being able to see red on white thing very early on, and it's kind of a blink and you miss it kind of thing, and that later comes up, and you're like, oh.
Exactly. You're like, oh, so that's why this happened.
That's what that meant. Or whenever they foreshadow the whole the visor being able to see that in the dark. There's at one point in a trial where Phoenix, the lights go off and his Geordie visor glows in the dark.
This is Geordie LaForge visor.
Yeah, and it's kind of that there's some foreshadowing going in there. There's a setup because later on that's going to get brought up in court, and Phoenix is going to use that to demonstrate what actually happened at the murder scene.
Yeah, exactly.
Everything ties in together, and it's really fucking cool. So I guess let's kind of jump into it case by case here briefly. Of course, we mentioned that you start the very first case as Mia. She is defending Phoenix.
Yeah, defending Phoenix over a poisoning. And this is where we really get our first glimpse of Dahlia Hawthorne.
Dahlia.
Oh, man, what a piece of work she is.
Thankfully, you take her down in this case, which is going to be your saving grace later in a pseudo unresolved case later on with Mia. But it was cool to be able to see this younger side of Mia, this is her second court or her second case ever. And she's a rookie attorney, and just kind of getting to see her and getting to see Phoenix pre-attorney as well.
Oh yeah. I mean, he's wearing a sweater with a heart and with a P in it and everything. It's like, and that was made by Dahlia, or should I say Iris?
Oh
yeah. Should I say Iris who made it? But yeah, he's such a fucking dolt, though. He's so head over heels for Dahlia.
The whole courtroom is.
Everybody is.
The judge, the prosecutor, Winston Payne again, and his a little bit younger. He still has hair. And Mia actually ends up blowing it off.
Exactly.
Basically.
He's like a pompadour and everything that he always plays with, which is like even in his animation when he doesn't have the hair, he still does that. So it's like some subconscious thing.
Yeah.
He still plays with his hair. which is funny.
That's kind of funny because that's a weird animation that, like, before you realize that that's what he was doing, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, he was playing with his pompadour.
Yeah, that's interesting, right? Yeah, so yeah, it's Mia versus Pain, but Dahlia is really the villain you're taking down here, and man, just what happens with this character? Like, I'm so glad that not only do you take her down here, but at the end of the game, you take her down like for good. You take her ego down, her spirit fails, and you do the only thing that you could possibly do to somebody who's already dead.
Exactly. Yeah, you pretty much banish her from this existence, practically. You banish her legacy in a way.
Yeah, kill her ego. So
you kill her ego, and then that, of course, that releases Maya, who's been channeling Dahlia the whole time.
Yeah, exactly. That is also another moment where it's kind of like, if you're thinking about it, you're gonna figure that out and realize, because who else could have been channeling her?
Exactly.
But even Dahlia herself hasn't actually apparently thought about it.
Yeah.
Or I guess she assumes that she's Pearl for some reason.
And Dahlia ultimately was involved in Mia's first case, where it was actually a whole deal over a $2 million ruby or something like that.
Yeah, some kind of gem, and it was another case where it really gets confusing here, because there's a case from 5 years before this case, which was 6 years before the rest of the cases in this game, that Dahlia was involved in, and again, very unfortunate connotations. But at least with this character, it's like he's clearly mentally challenged.
He's mentally challenged and doesn't understand what's really going on.
But he's not a murderer, and that's the thing. He's just twisted around Dahlia's finger. I mean, it's really
she
gross.
Pretty much indirectly murders him.
Yeah, because his teen angel.
Oh yeah, that's not cool.
But even so, I mean, yeah, just kind of, you feel bad for him having been brought into this. And I like how Takumi managed to take two attorneys that are supposedly undefeated, and pitting them against each other during their first ever trial. Like, how do we manage to keep their record spotless? And the answer is that this case is unresolved. The defendant kills himself at the end, and it's like, wow.
Yeah, that was a hell of a fucking gut punch. It was just like, whoa.
And of course, Edgeworth was the prosecutor in this case, right?
And it really hit him hard too.
Yeah, Edgeworth too. Yeah,
it hit Edgeworth and Mia hard.
Yeah, and it doesn't end on a good note, except that you know that she does get taken down later, and then the final case even kind of like adds more on top of that. Going back to the second and third cases, the Stolen Turnabout is actually one of my favorite cases.
Stolen Turnabout is great. It really is.
I love the whole double jeopardy thing. I love how basically what you have to do, again, showing Phoenix's his growth, his expertise at this point, that he manages to get his client acquitted of larceny.
Oh yeah, mask to mask.
Yeah, only to have to basically recant part of what was revealed during that trial, that he was mask to mask, in order to because okay, so and Godot actually weaves it this way despite having more knowledge, and does this on purpose. But you acquit him of larceny, and that implicates him in murder. So you later have to, because now you've proven that he was at this place, well, now he's the prime suspect for murder. Now you have to basically in court recant what you had previously said. He is the thief mask to mask, but he's not a murderer. But because of double jeopardy, he cannot be tried for his crimes of thievery.
Exactly. So he gets away with it, and him and his wife Desi, who is adorable. Honestly, those two are favorite characters of mine in this game, because they have such a great relationship. I mean, Desi is just like so down for her man.
She is. It's
she really
great.
Is.
They're honestly adorable.
And in the end, they end up being like a they kind of like have a security or a crime fighting business after that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
right?
Something to that effect. Like, it pretty much makes Mask to Mask like a vigilante this time.
Yeah. Something of that nature, right?
Yeah.
And it's really interesting because he is actually like again, this is a good person. He's just he is actually guilty of of stealing something, but it was all mostly masterminded by Luke Atme.
Oh, it was. Yeah, it was Luke Atme that was doing that because he wanted to raise his profile as a ace detective.
Another great culprit.
Oh, he's great, and taking him down in court is hilarious. Zavari.
But what a testament to Phoenix's skill that he's able to just turn this whole thing around. And even though Luke Atme had basically set this trap up and basically masterminded planned to get a not guilty verdict, again utilizing double jeopardy.
Yeah, he was trying to get a guilty verdict
as an alibi,
as mask to mask as an alibi. Exactly.
Yeah. So it's a really intricate case, and I think again it's a testament to Phoenix's skill at this point that he's able to pull it off and really just kind of reveal and pursue the truth here. Interesting that this basically occurs canonically right after Farewell My Turnabout.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
Again, dealing with the question of, well, what if, the client really is guilty of something? Well, it turns out he's not guilty of the specific crime that he was being prosecuted for, which was theft of the sacred urn, which makes a return from Justice for All.
Yeah, that it's great to see the whole Treasures of Kurain exhibition and everything, and also having Adrian Andrews come back into the.
We didn't even mention Adrian Andrews from the last game, but the poor character that she basically had to expose her weakness in court, her mental illness.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like you had to kind of make her vulnerable, and she almost got. She almost had murder accusations levied at her. She was almost labeled guilty. So
because you're trying to get Matt on guard, who you did at the time believe was innocent, a not guilty verdict. But later on, when you realize it, you're kind of like, well, if I let him get away with this, she would be the scapegoat. And now that I know the truth, I'm glad that her story got better in the Stolen Turnabout.
Yeah, she's doing a lot better, even though she can be a little bit neurotic if things don't go her way. Like for instance, when you discover what happened with the urn and how she broke it.
Yep.
And you realize how many times this goddamn fucking urn has been busted up by people.
Yeah, well, one more time even because of we find out at the end of Bridge of the Turnabout. So.
Yeah, exactly.
So at least 3 separate occasions this fucking urn has been broken.
Yep, and put back together hastefully.
Yeah.
Usually by kids.
Mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Moving on, recipe for Turnabout. Again, it's the case 3. You can definitely argue that it's the weakest case of this game, but it's not bad.
Oh, Draven. S'il vous plaît.
Okay, so yeah, there's Jean Armstrong. According to the localization team, the gay cis man who enjoys performing non-passing drag.
Sounds about right. That's what he looks like. He's a very he has some masculine features and also some in between.
Yeah,
some feminine.
Yeah. So as a witness, I think the most interesting thing about Recipe for Turnabout is the whole imposter plot. Again, kind of a testament to Phoenix's growth at this point. I mean, he's so well known now that people are actually using his name to do some shady shit. Like
I can't believe that this dude in this case bullshitted his way into a courtroom with a goddamn cardboard badge. Fucking taking up the name of like an up and coming celebrity defense attorney and actually pulled it off and did so badly that on purpose that it got Maggie convicted.
Yeah. And I love how, all it takes apparently is spiky hair and a blue suit. And despite the fact that this dude had a completely different complexion, a Brooklyn accent.
Brooklyn accent with
totally different build.
With orange, like in New York accent with orange skin.
Orange skin.
Orange skin, you say?
That's hilarious.
No, I'm just playing.
Yeah, no, this guy, Furio Tigre, the tiger. Hey,
what you talking about, bro? What the fuck he's talking about?
But I love the way that you take him down. Again, I think that is also kind of PK's attorney there because what you do is you find out like everything about this case has been phony. There was a phony attorney that was actually the culprit, a phony victim, and a phony murder scene made in order to pin the crime on the defendant. Everything up to this case has been phony, so Phoenix ends it off with, well, why don't I just end this with phony evidence? Takes the new piece of evidence that's valid evidence, not forged, but valid evidence that Gumshoe gets for him at the last minute, but ultimately wouldn't be helpful on its own. Bullshits his way, basically totally bluffs to the max, and bullshits his way into getting Furio Tigre to confess.
It's really fucking awesome.
Trips him up.
And you really want to take this guy down because he is such a fucking asshole. It's like, I mean, he, out of all the characters in all of these, all three of these games, this dude is the biggest fucking asshole. So it's just like, oh man, it's like, no, fuck this guy. Like, even near the end, it's like, I'm going to penalize you money, right?
Fuck you.
Like, it's like, I'm like, oh, fuck you, dude.
Take this bastard down.
Yeah, fuck you. I'm not going to pay you money, asshole.
Nah. And yeah, I love that it's great. You get him to slip up by such a dirty trick.
Basically just pulling one over on him.
Yeah.
Like,
you
absolutely.
present valid evidence saying that it's something that it's not and get him to correct him. Implicating himself.
It's really awesome.
Fucking amazing. Again, that's Phoenix's skill here. He's so much more competent here than he's ever been. And I love seeing that journey from rookie defense attorney to, this veteran, this, like you said, pseudo celebrity that is known for his massive bluffery and.
Yeah, he's just known for pulling off miracles in court by that point.
Yeah.
You're just pulling not guilty verdicts out of nowhere.
And the truth is on Phoenix's side, and I think that there is something to be said about his ability to uncover the truth. But a lot of times the road to getting there is just basically like I love how the game gives you situations where logically you may not really have an idea what to present. You're kind of just bluffing, and Phoenix is doing the same thing.
Yeah, honestly, if you are a bullshitter, you will excel at this game and also if you know how to sniff out bullshit, because yeah, there's a lot of testimony in these cases where you're just like, nope, bullshit. You are fucking full of shit. Like, absolutely.
Yeah, and there's a lot more. I think there's even a lot more strategy to the way that Phoenix goes about, and where in previous games, he would kind of like freak out, and you as the player may be able to figure it out, but like Phoenix is still freaking out and not quite there, and then somebody has to come in at the last minute and save his ass. As we get towards the final case of the trilogy,
that starts to happen less and less,
and Phoenix kind of like digs himself out, and he does rely on some dumb luck. Don't take me wrong, but there's a lot less of it, and I think it's to the point that it's like, what can he do with the deck that he's dealt that really defines him?
Yeah, sometimes you're served a shit sandwich and you have to just kind of take a bite and figure out what to do with it.
What does Francisca say? She's like, he has to be either the unluckiest or the luckiest man that I know.
I know, like she's like taken aback that he was able to make it out of the Eagle River and everything. You know? Like with nothing more than a cold. It's like, yeah, that has to be dumb luck.
Seriously. So yeah, getting into the final case, Bridge to the Turnabout, my favorite case in the entire series. I love how everything is tied up in some form or fashion, from DL6, Morgan Fay, Misty Fay, the themes, like what was going on with Mia, with the flashback cases in this game, Maya's character journey, this guy Godot that shows up here. Everything is tied up in the most satisfying way.
I'm honestly kind of sad that we didn't get to see more of Misty Fay. Honestly.
Oh, yeah.
It's like,
shows up for 2 minutes, you don't know who she is, and she's the victim.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of sucks. I mean, it would have been great for Misty and Maya to have a moment together,
They do have a moment, Beau.
Oh, that is. Yeah, you're right. They do.
Technically speaking. But I'm talking about a moment where they reunite as mother and daughter. And it's just like after 17 years. Also, this case, I think, marks the first time where like spirit channeling was like admissible testimony in court. I mean, it was danced around in reunion in Turnabout back in the second game.
Yeah.
Where it was kind of like, okay, they acknowledged, the spirit channeling thing in court, but anything regarding the spirit channeling didn't have to be proven. And we managed to find a case, that actually didn't involve spirit channeling going on. This case actually heavily does involve, and you actually take down a spirit channeled by Maya in court.
Exactly. And then there's that moment where Pearl channels Mia, and then they have that moment where they kind of have that showdown in court.
Yeah. Yeah,
it's
and
like
also Godot.
Yeah, Dahlia, Godot, and Mia. Exactly.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. That's the other plot line that's really wrapped up here is Dahlia. In really nice way, like we said, we take down her ego, force her to go, and it's fucking great. But the mysteries aren't even solved after that point. I mean, there's still more to reveal about who really killed Misty Faye.
It's by that point you're just resolving Dahlia's part in the whole plot.
And then arguably the best moment in the series, the super objection. There's a moment where, and what's funny is it doesn't matter what you present, Godot always says the same thing. He acts like it's shit, and he doesn't even listen to what you're about to present. And then he goes, you'll never be half of what Mia is. And then at that moment, you see Mia's spirit behind Phoenix, and they do an objection together, and it's
that you realize that Mia's legacy lives on through Phoenix. Absolutely.
And they actually bring the pursuit theme from the first game in. They bring in a mixed another arrangement of that. Pursuit Cornered.
Yeah, that was really cool, man. I liked hearing that.
Yeah, and you're taking down Godot, who ultimately, again, is another sympathetic villain. He's not somebody like On Guard.
No, not at all. I mean, you actually kind of realize why he did what he did. It was just a pure reaction to seeing Dahlia.
Yeah.
Because he hated her so much for what she did.
Yeah, and that's not to mention the fact that, like you said, the first part of this case, you actually play as Edgeworth standing in court.
Edgeworth versus Francisca. Like, that is, like, a great sequence.
And what's funny is, Edgeworth actually gets to see what Phoenix has to deal with, all the bullshit that he has in this fucked up legal system.
Yeah, he's just like,
defense.
He's just like, Jesus, is this what Wright has to deal with? I feel like the entire world is crumbling around me,
What's interesting about that, though, is you get to see the differences in how Phoenix and Edgeworth uncover the truth. Like, Edgeworth is more competent than Phoenix when it comes to like finding like obvious contradictions in testimony and like calling those out, finding multiple contradictions from the same statement and evidence. But where Wright has the edge is when it comes to just thinking about this case in a way that nobody would have ever thought of. Like, Edgeworth managed to pull out the Larry's drawing, but he would never have come to the conclusion that Wright did about the truth behind that drawing.
That's dude, and that was like evident to me like almost right away once it all started to come together. It's like, oh, it's upside down.
Yeah,
it's like, okay. Wright is the one that will come into the court and he will like just say, no, it's not like this. Let's see if we do it like this and then see what happens. And it usually actually everything falls into place from that,
That's Wright's thing that he's good at, is like these turnabouts, these huge revelations that change the way that you think the entire case. And that's something that's cool, is kind of seeing Phoenix and Edgeworth work together on this, and Edgeworth just basically exposing all of the lies, finding everything that Wright needed to do to piece everything together, and then Wright just nailing that in the coffin, and having just this tremendous step in his character growth, I would add.
But I would also say that this is a case where the end result is more of a team effort,
Yeah.
Edgeworth and Von Karma, I mean, they actually set up the case like perfectly for Wright to kind of take it to its logical conclusion.
Yeah, and then even Francisca gets to help out during the investigation segment, and you kind of actually get some camaraderie between Phoenix and Francisca, which is cool.
Yeah, they've actually kind of grown together a little bit.
Yeah, the Butts finally gets
the Butts.
He comes back in Trials and Tribulations, and at this point, I think he's starting to realize that how many of these situations he finds himself in, not only finds himself in, but like fucking fucks things up for everybody in some way.
Yeah, so he decides that he wants to kind of reinvent himself a little bit, and he actually does. He finds his calling a little bit, as an artist.
And then of course, he's still simping. That never goes away.
Of course, yeah.
And speaking of simping, Iris.
Oh man, she was my favorite character here. It's like just so awesome.
What a crazy twist, though.
What a crazy twist. Just finding out that, oh my God, her and Dahlia are twin sisters. What the fuck?
So I had to keep my mouth shut a lot. Like I was watching, we were playing this game and I was watching you react to this and I was like, oh man. And so when they pull that out, they're like, normally when you hear like, oh, she has a twin, that feels kind of cliche, but it's the first time they've actually done it. It won't be the last, but it's the first time they've actually done it in Ace Attorney, and they actually managed to work it really well. And they even it's not just that she has a twin, like there's a whole switcheroo.
Yeah, it's a whole switcheroo, and it has to do with the Kurain channeling technique and everything.
Yeah, and somebody who's actually dead being the culprit or part of, the
part of the culprit. Yeah.
Yeah, an accomplice, so to speak. Crazy how this whole case unfolds. And then of course, Iris, who you're really not sure what to think, right? Because you wonder if this might be one of those situations where it's like, well, obviously she's guilty, right?
Yeah, I know, because I mean, for one, you obviously see, look, she looks exactly like Dahlia, but then you actually talk to her and you investigate, and you're just like, but this can't be Dahlia.
So what's going on?
Yeah, what's going on here is like Sister Bikini says that she was there at the temple when she was a little girl. So it's like she's at least credible enough to speak to that. So it's like at first you're just like, what the fuck is going on here? Is this Dahlia? This can't be Dahlia.
Yeah. And I think actually Iris is the closest to a canonical love interest for Phoenix Wright.
Absolutely. Like she kind of confesses her feelings for him at the end of the game a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, and we know that he was interested in her because he was the person that he loved wasn't Dahlia, it was her. Yeah, that was the person he actually interacted with. So, I don't know. I like Phoenix and Edgeworth too. And I'm pretty cool with Phoenix and Maya. Obviously, at one point, I actually liked that pairing.
I don't see it.
I don't see it, but I'm still cool with it.
I don't see. I think that I think that Iris is the perfect Fae for the perfect member of the Fae clan for Wright.
I think that it would be weird for it to be anything other than Iris if you really look at like what's presented in like text. But then again, if he ended up with Edgeworth and like they were just like, fuck it, like that's what the fans want, that would be fine too.
That would be good. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. But I do like that it doesn't really delve into the romance too much. It keeps it just ambiguous enough that you can kind of headcanon.
Well, of course, Pearlie is going to beat the living shit out of Phoenix Wright when she finds out, because she's so dedicated to him and Maya being lovers.
I think that's kind of what threw me over. Like in the first game, there wasn't really hints of romance at all, but like this from the second game on, with Pearl kind of like always joking about it, I kind of felt like that was the writers kind of trying to throw that. And maybe they were in Justice for All, but I feel like in Trials and Tribulations they kind of rode away from that
a little bit, and I think that's what makes Iris a more logical, canonical love interest for him. Sort of.
Yeah. But yeah, I love how this case just wraps everything so nicely.
Yeah, it's a really, really standout case.
Yeah. And overall, Trials and Tribulations has a fantastic soundtrack. Again, I would only say that I feel like some of the first game's tracks are just a little bit more iconic to me. I do like this objection theme. Objection 2004 feels very similar to Objection 2001, even though they're different songs, but they're almost the same thing. But this is the one that would actually end up being Wright's theme moving throughout the rest of the games, which makes sense because this objection theme was actually, if you think about it, Mia's objection theme. And so it becoming Phoenix's in this game as well kind of symbolizes his growth into, her spirit living in him.
Yep.
Living through him, and just kind of that whole character journey that they're going through, and that ends up being the version that shows up in the later mainline games as well, or variations of it. They're constantly remixing. Specifically, this objection theme is the one that sticks.
Yeah. I do like the various remixes that they've gone throughout the series.
Yeah,
I mean, and it's only natural that they would remix them, but they still managed to kind of keep the original spirit of each composition.
It's interesting how throughout the trilogy, like you look at like the objection themes, the pursuit themes, the cross-examination themes, and they all manage to kind of like convey the same meanings and feel similar enough while being completely different.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, like you hear like, okay, this is an objection theme. This, even though like the second game's objection theme sound is quite a bit different, it's like it's kind of doing the same thing. And then but overall, this trilogy has one of my favorite video game soundtracks. I love both the original like chiptune versions as well as the remastered versions in the trilogy board.
Like I said, I jam this music all the time now, along with the other video game soundtracks that I listen to.
Fucking A. Well, anything else to add on Trials and Tribulations?
Iris and Wright are totally my ship.
Nice.
That's my ship.
Yeah, it's definitely my favorite game in the franchise. And there's a lot of reasons for that. It's just the story is so well done. There's not a single bad case, or even like a mid or really even a weak case, so to speak. Like the weakest case, I think, is still a pretty strong case in my opinion. The series overall, Trials and Tribulations feels like it could be, the natural end. I mean, it does wrap everything and conclude everything in such a satisfying, meaningful way that it's like, I can see what Shu Takumi meant when he said that, this was intended to be the end of Wright's character journey, even more so than, originally with the first game, right? Because originally he had intended to just make the first game a standalone, and then he stretched it out, made a trilogy, and this really was meant to be the end of this character's of his story arc, right?
Yeah, but you know how Capcom is.
But I'm not dissatisfied with the results because I like what they've done with the franchise from here. The Great Ace Attorney Chronicles are honestly like the closest to the quality of the original trilogy. But even going forward with the mainline games, with Phoenix's character kind of throwing him more in the mentor role, there's still a couple interesting things to do with his character that they did. Even if the games don't come out quite as strong as these first three, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles do. So you should definitely play those if you enjoyed these. And I say go ahead and give Apollo Justice a shot and play through the rest of the series because it's worth it. There's not a bad Ace Attorney game.
I agree. There really aren't any bad Ace Attorney games in this trilogy here.
No.
I mean, it's surprising to me, actually.
Yeah, and like you said, I'm so disappointed that I slept on this franchise for so long. Like it was always kind of there. Like I had heard of it, and like we mentioned, in the last part, it really should have appealed to me sooner because I'm really into the whole like murder mystery thing, and also just logic puzzles in general.
Same here. This kind of appeals to that part of my brain, my deductive side and everything, because I was always a fan of like Sherlock Holmes and even back then, this is probably something that you don't know anything about, Encyclopedia Brown.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a detective series involving a young kid who was he was an encyclopedia, and basically the cases were not unlike this. You kind of had to read and kind of take everything into consideration and then come up with a solution, and it would have a solution at the end of the book and everything for each case.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, this is like Encyclopedia Brown, but for the gaming generation. That's kind of what it is. And interestingly enough, it would be cool if somebody made an Encyclopedia Brown game in that respect, Yeah,
that sounds cool. Yeah, like we mentioned in like the previous episode, I immediately just fell in love with the satisfaction of pursuing the truth in these cases, finding out, what really, really happened, and just pursuing the culprit, and really just finding contradictions and that that gotcha moment when you finally figured it out.
Yeah, a lot of what makes this game fun is really just trying to see what's going to come next, like I was like, we played Bridge to the Turnabout halfway through, and I was just like, man, what's going to happen next after the whole segment with Edgeworth and Francisca. It's like, how is the next court battle going to play out?
Exactly, and that's what these games do. I mean, on that note, any final thoughts on the Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney trilogy overall?
I highly recommend this. Like, even the weakest cases are still so much fun, have so much character, and just have such great narrative. And I really love the presentation, the visual novel presentation, slash courtroom drama and everything. And yeah, I really regret not getting into this sooner. But then again, I never really had a DS. That was kind of my brother's generation of gaming. My little brother's, your generation more or less. But I mean, now that it's been remastered, now it's been re-released, this is definitely the way to play these games. And yeah, play through them all the way through from beginning to end, and you'll have a blast. And honestly, I recommend playing this with friends because, I mean, kind of involving everybody and actually, taking in the evidence and listening to testimony and everything and trying to figure this stuff out. It can almost be a good hangout game.
Yeah, exactly.
In a way, it is a good hangout game.
Yeah, I gotta agree. So, Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Trilogy is something I can genuinely recommend to anybody. And let me just emphasize on what that means, because this is actually like a rare thing. I would recommend this to literally anyone, whether you're a gamer or not. If you're like casual or hardcore, it doesn't matter, because this game was developed, it was designed with that idea in mind, as a game that my mother could play. That's the design philosophy that Shu Takumi adopted when he pieced this together. And I think that works best specifically with the Ace Attorney trilogy. And I say I can recommend it to anybody in every sense of the word, because if you are a first-time player of the Ace Attorney franchise, this is the perfect starting point. Start with the first game, because the logic isn't too complex. It's not nearly as much as it gets in some of the later games, Rise from the Ashes excluded. But it does build up in complexity, and they do get more and more convoluted over time. And that's why you want to start with the very first game and work your way through the trilogy. And I highly recommend that as a starting point for anybody interested in these games, because or this genre of game even, because because the trilogy is really like peak Ace Attorney, and it is the point from which everything else in the franchise, if you decide to play, starts from.
Yeah.
And man, it is quickly became one of my favorite video game franchises. I just instantly fell in love with it. I think from the first case, as soon as I got a taste of what it was like to expose contradictions in court and take down witnesses that were really the culprit, I just, once I had a taste of that, I was addicted, and I just marathon through this entire trilogy, and that's basically what we did too.
Practically, yeah. We just played our way through each and every case one by one.
Yeah. It's interesting how this is one of those game series that'll do that to you. Like you start and it's like you just keep going. Like it's like, yeah, they just get throughout the trilogy. I feel like it just kind of gets better and better.
Yeah, in that way, it felt like some of the early PlayStation Final Fantasy games, and that's the same way. Where you're really playing through it and you really just want to see what happens next. You want to unlock the next part of the story. So yeah, it kind of has that feel to me.
Exactly, it does. And the characters are so endearing. You just really fall in love with them. Even the ones that were villains at some point are like, wow, no,
Yeah.
they're my favorite. That's what's amazing.
Yeah, exactly.
So go check out the Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney trilogy. If you've listened through both of these spoiler-filled episodes, still go check them out for yourself because it's still 100% worth it. You could find this trilogy port in particular on any modern gaming console. So we played it on the PS4 and PS5. So there's it's on PS4, it's on Xbox, Windows, Switch. There's a port on iOS and Android now that's actually pretty good. If you hear bad things about the iOS port, they mean the old one. The current one that you can buy on the store is good. And I played through the original trilogy for the first time on that bad iOS port, and I still love the hell out of it. So, yeah. If you have access to the original hardware or you want to sail the open seas, yeah, this game should not be that difficult to emulate. DS games aren't. But I do kind of recommend the trilogy port most of all because I feel like there's a lot of quality of life improvements, even like corrections to for continuity reasons, and better grammar. And, the graphics isn't even the biggest thing. It's just like it even being like small things like being able to skip through testimony you've already heard and things like that. Like, yeah, I think that the current trilogy port, and it's pretty cheap. I think like I didn't spend more than $20 on it, and I bought this I've bought this trilogy actually twice. I bought it on or 3 times. I bought the bad iOS port, I bought the new iOS port, and I bought it on PlayStation. And I don't feel like I feel like I've got my money's worth even spending 3 times.
Yeah.
Seriously. I got hooked into this game franchise. It was something that actually, like, I was playing even when I was supposed to be playing other games for the podcast. I could not stop playing Ace Attorney, and I knew we had to do it. And I'm so glad we finally did.
Hell yeah, man. And I'm glad to have been here for these episodes and everything.
Yeah. So if you enjoyed this Collateral Gaming and Collateral Cinema collab, be on the watch for more. Especially this month, we should be doing the Super Mario Brothers movie.
Yeah, and we should also be... also, what else were we going to collaborate on? We were going to do the Conker's Bad Fur Day.
Yeah, you're going to be on that episode.
Yeah.
And
on Collateral Cinema, we are going to be doing our season finale very soon with Spy Hards. That'll be Corvette Summer. But before that, we're going to do our 420 episode. We're talking about the first Clerks movie by Kevin Smith. And that is going to be all kinds of exciting. I've been wanting to talk about this movie for a while since we did Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back. So, yeah, that's going to be interesting.
Hell yeah. With Collateral Gaming, we are working our way to our season finale now. So this was actually supposed to be out technically a couple months ago, but I really wanted to have it out by March. But no worries. This month we have, like Beau mentioned, our 420 special on Conker's Bad Fur Day. The numbered episodes that were planned for this month are going to be bad games because April is going to be moving forward our bad game month, or actually has been.
Yeah.
Besides 420.
Yeah, you're doing Plumbers Don't Wear Ties, and I definitely want to be there for that, and E.T. the Extraterrestrial.
Yep. So we should be doing those 2 this month. And then I really want to make sure that we have that wrapped up because in May, Tears of the Kingdom comes out and we are covering it. It's our official season finale. Part 1 will be spoiler free and part 2 will go into full spoiler details. Even if we have to wait, like a month to actually play through everything and do it and release that by June, it doesn't matter. It's the season finale. So
yeah.
But we will be covering Tears of the Kingdom as soon as we possibly can after it comes out. I want to get our spoiler-free first impressions review out. Maybe at most a week after the game comes out.
Yeah,
I'd like to be on the ball with that. So yeah, stick around for the closing of Collateral Gaming Season 5 and Collateral Cinema Season 6. We're already in the planning stages for our upcoming seasons.
Yeah, and we're also in the planning stages for more live streams as well.
Yeah, so if you didn't know, we actually did a live stream of Trials and Tribulations this week prior to recording this episode.
Yeah, that was actually a lot of fun. I mean, we had at least a few people watching us and everything, and I look forward to doing that again.
Yeah, we'll do definitely more live streams. I would love to do a Let's Play on Apollo Justice.
Yeah, definitely.
Kind of that way we can kind of cover. And in some form or fashion, I think from here on, we're going to be covering the rest of the Ace Attorney games. Next season, for sure, I want to do the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's going to be a lot of fun. If you want to support us, go check out our Patreon. Both Collateral Gaming and Collateral Cinema have $1 and $5 tiers. And if you pay any amount of money as of now, you get access to our exclusive Let's Play video game commentaries and full-length movie commentaries. And we are expanding our Patreon, of course, like Beau's mentioned, and figuring out, what else we can do with the platform once we get some more patrons.
Absolutely. So start joining our Patreon, ladies and gentlemen. We will start giving more content and possibly even free merchandise out once we start getting our merch together in the preseason, or in the postseason, I should say. So, yeah.
Yeah, hell yeah. That's just about it, guys. Find us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, or wherever you get your podcasts.
And give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, and Podchaser.
Alrighty. Well, Beau, what do you say about going on for another hour?
Oh, no, I think that I'm just going to have to give in. Objection!
Actually, objection, dumbass. Haven't you heard? You absolute failure. Did Gumfuck not tell you? Your garbage excuse of a hypothesis, I'll shove my entire cravat up your ass because it's fucking wrong. Why? Well, you little bitch. If you could take a look at this motherfucking up...
Collateral Gaming is a Collateral Media podcast. All music and game clips are owned by their respective creators and are used for educational purposes only. Please don't sue us. We're poor.